What? No.
You suck! Oh my God!
This is What the Suck Podcast. I'm Chris.
And I'm James.
And we are going to be watching some pretty crappy films.
The worst.
Oh, yeah. And reviewing them and making some recommendations. The goal here is not to deter you from watching them, but just to let you know which ones are the worst of the worst or the best of the worst, if you would so want to call them.
Yes, absolutely. It is not our intention to run you off. We actually encourage you to watch the films that we will be reviewing. Enjoy them with your friends and family. Get a good laugh out of them. Heck, even get drunk and play drinking games with them. Whatever you can think of.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And so we'll let you know which ones are good to watch with friends, which ones are good to watch alone, which ones are good to watch over and over. And we'll be using our own particular scale of shit emojis.
That's right. The shit scale, the suck scale. We'll be rating movies from 1 to 5 shits.
So what's a 1? What is a 1 bad?
A 1 is actually the best you can get for the horror movies.
1 is good, so we're reversing the scale.
We are reversing the scale. The more turds, the worse it is.
Okay, so 5 it would be something
a monstrous, a big giant pile of shit.
Big giant pile of shit. That is one big pile of shit. Okay, and so today's movie for the first episode is Scary or Die. It's a 2012 anthology horror film that was distributed by Phase 4 Films and produced by Canal Street Filmed. It was helmed by 3 directors, Bob Badway, Michael Emanuel, and Igor Meglic. It stars Corbin Bleu of High School Musical fame and Bill Oberst Jr. and consists of 4.5 short films wrapped around a connecting story involving an unseen person. Selecting these short films off a website called scaryorDie.com. The start has someone off screen selecting all the films, and as the films progress, all you see is the hand, and the hands become more and more decrepit as the shorts, or as the movie goes along, I should say. Now, James pointed out something pretty interesting with regards to the Amazon synopsis. You want to...
Yes, we need to definitely go over that. If you do watch it on Amazon, the synopsis of the movie is completely wrong. Sorry to say. But it says verbatim, 5 complete strangers attempt to escape a gruesome demise by a clown that feeds upon human flesh.
That is so wrong.
It is very wrong. So, just warning you in advance, it is not just a killer clown movie. There are many more parts to it.
The clown is just one segment. It's the longest of the segments.
It is. That is true.
At the end of the movie.
Yeah, almost at the end, and then there's a small short after that. But we will be covering them one at a time. Hope you enjoy our reviews, and this is the first of many we hope to be doing. So,
and I don't know about you, but I personally love anthology films.
Yes,
I love horror anthologies. They're among my favorite, partially because it doesn't matter how crappy they are. You don't have to get too invested in the characters because they're only going to be there for 10, 15 minutes and you go to a whole new set.
That is correct. Kill them off and go to the next one.
Go to the next one. And it gives each writer, director, screenwriter an opportunity to tell his particular story. And then you get to see, and I also like to see how the wraparound connects to all the films. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But I love seeing, different short stories take place in this quote-unquote same universe of this
absolutely
film.
Absolutely. And it gives the short story writers a chance to shine because a lot of them do not write material that you would be able to extend into a full feature film.
Right,
so it's kind of good to give them a shot at it too, because shorts are a big part of the film industry.
Yeah,
whether they suck or not.
Yeah, some of these are even stretching it at the time limit that they have made them into. They could have been cut down a lot shorter to save on unnecessary parts. But
pretty much.
So we're getting ready to start with the first one, and we'll see what you think.
Rock and roll.
Rock and roll.
Part 1, The Crossing. Holy shit. I don't even know what to say about this one. Stereotypical. I mean, it's got some humor to it, but it's stereotypical. Basically, what you got here is the Hills Have Eyes meet the Beverly Hillbillies. So it's a little off-key. It's a little weird. There's not even the good hillbillies, too. The really stupid ones you always see in the background. You got a half-decent looking girl with two radiologically fucked up rednecks. I mean, I don't even know what you could say, but how do you even describe what these two clowns are like?
Well, one of them looks like David Spade on meth.
That's true.
And the other one looks like David Spade's dad on meth. And the girlfriend slash sister looks like she's the girlfriend slash sister.
Yeah, that's not too good.
So what is it that they're doing?
Well, it starts off with these jokers in a store, obviously racial, talking shit. And another thing you might want to know is the audio in this segment is not that good in parts. So you want to turn the volume up a little bit.
Oh yeah, we had it up pretty loud. We still couldn't hear certain parts.
Couldn't hear jack.
Bad audio design.
And these guys are basically, you kind of get them figured out. Redneck, you're not sure what exactly they're up to, but it doesn't take long to realize when you see them heading to the border what's going to happen.
Drinking like piss moonshine. No, it wasn't in pickle jar. It was a damn peanut butter.
It was a Google jar with that peanut butter
jelly combo.
Peanut butter jelly mix.
Yeah, they're not classy enough for pickle jars. I guess
it was something that looked like antifreeze. So anyway, these jokers are heading to the border. I don't want to just give the whole thing away, but basically it's typical story. You go into a squatter area, clothing, miscellaneous items scattered about. And you actually notice graves in the area. And that's a little off-putting, but then you soon realize what these guys are up to when they reveal the fact that they've actually got two Mexican nationals in the back of their pickup truck under a rug. So they waste no time in dispatching these two gentlemen, which in turn sets off a series of events which leads to what can only be described. I don't even know how to say this.
I saw
seriously.
a review on another site, and someone described this segment as "Daywalkers of the Dead." Yeah. No, I take it back. I'm sorry. Day workers of the dead.
Day workers of the
dead. Yeah.
Okay, so you put two and two together. You don't have to think too hard about it. You got two redneck white boys down on the border and a bunch of Mexican zombies.
Zexicans?
I guess so.
Mombies? His bombies, maybe?
Something, but yeah.
Emerged
from the dirt, dispatching our two great gentlemen. And actually, I have to admit, the gore in this particular section was fairly well done. I actually liked it.
So
it was, when they killed those guys, and then when they were being basically devoured, that was pretty good. I didn't mind the fake screams, and he wasn't moving his arms at all. He's just laying there, letting his legs being ripped apart. He wasn't using his hands. You'll notice stuff like that. They basically lay there and take it.
Yeah,
and you're like, yeah.
The practical effects were pretty good. I think the script was pretty terrible. Like, I don't know, I haven't looked up what the ethnic backgrounds of the directors are, or even the screenwriters, but it's like they don't know what Arizona hillbilly rednecks are like, so it's just a general
problem
stereotype.
I've lived in Arizona and they don't act like that. These particular hillbillies are ones you're going to find in South Swamp, Mississippi kind of rednecks. They're more they're more hillbilly type. They're not really redneck boys.
They felt more backwood
hillbillies types.
Yeah. I felt like they didn't really have a lot to work with. I don't know why they even decided to start with this particular short. Because, normally you want to start with one of your stronger ones to get people hooked in. Yeah. And if we were to base the rest of the movie on this one beginning short, I would say fucking skip it. Skip the whole movie. Because this short did not inspire any confidence in me to watch the rest of the movie.
Yeah, I had to question their writing on this one. This was pretty bad. like I said, very stereotypical racial overtones, obviously. But I guess you have to do that to make it work.
So we noticed something when we were watching it. So you noticed that the beginning, when the person at the beginning is on the mouse and the computer, that the person's hands are actually not decrepit.
Yep.
They're actually normal looking. And then when that segment ends and we go back to the computer, her hand is a little
looks
more
like
decayed
bloody,
a little
actually.
more. Yeah.
It looks like
yeah.
there's like blood splatters or
Yeah.
something on it. So.
And then we saw the black lady in the car at the gas station, which is the one that you will see later in the movie.
Which on my preview, I did not actually make that connection. So
Yeah. So if we had to base, let's use the title of the movie. If we had to base this short as Scary or Die, what would you rate it?
I'd say fucking die.
I say dead, been dead, smell like shit.
Yeah,
I would agree.
No good.
No. So, okay, so we're going to go ahead and go on to the next one.
God help us.
Okay, so segment 2 is Tejong's Lament. Basically, a widower spends his nights wandering around, mourning his wife, being haunted by her ghosts, and looking for anybody who looks just like her. He comes across a woman who looks at him, so I guess that means consent. I don't know. I mean, it just looks at her like, oh,
Yep.
She looked at me. Okay. But she just happens to get kidnapped right after she looks at him, and as he goes to help, he tracks the guy down and is able to knock him out and save her, and she's eternally grateful, and so she invites him to come over to her place tomorrow, and when he gets there, he turns out she's a vampire, and she lives in a coven of vampires, and the guy shows back up right as he's bit, and it turns out the guy is Van Helsing.
That's pretty awesome.
What a twist.
That's sweet. That's right.
Yeah, so what do you think about this one, James?
Well, I actually at first, until I got another viewing at it and paid a little more attention to some of the smaller details that I'd missed, thought he was more of a perv. I was like, what the hell's wrong with this guy?
Taeshung.
Yeah, Taeshung. Okay. He's following these guys, following these ladies around and stuff like that, and he just looked like a damn creeper,
I mean, he's like staring intently at him, so yeah, you can definitely.
So, but I was pleasantly surprised with this segment. I was initially disappointed at first, but then it started to pick up and it made a little more sense. It didn't strike me so much as a quote-unquote horror movie for most of it. But it was more like just a broken-hearted dude roaming around and stuff like this, and he does the good deed, saves the girl's life, which, going back to the fact that you referred to, the vampires and stuff like that, why did these two women haul ass instead of try to help her?
Yeah, so that's one thing I didn't mention. So when she's with two other of her friends, and when Van Helsing shows up to kidnap her using what looks like it could be chloroform, but does, like you had mentioned, does chloroform work on vampires? So maybe it's some silver laced chloroform.
Yep.
But when he does that, her two friends just like haul ass and take off. Like, what the hell?
Yeah, they just left her hanging, man. So I was like, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I guess they use that as a move to kind of throw you off the path. So
yeah, but it doesn't make sense though, because if you're three vampires, you think you could, at least, I mean, because Van Helsing in this short was kind of old.
Yeah.
So you think the three young vampiresses could
do something, yeah.
At least get her away from him and take off with her.
Yeah, but
yeah, that was one thing I was like that kind of threw me off. I'm like, I guess there's no honor among vampires.
I suppose, man. They just haul ass, but then they show up at the end, though, don't they? Yeah.
They show up after he saved her and brought her back to her apartment. Then they come running up.
And they come running out, like, hey, what's going on? Come on, let's go.
Yeah, so I don't know. That was kind of a weak plot point as far as that. I mean, and the thing is, most of the short is done without. What word?
There's no dialogue.
Thank you. Most of the short is done without dialogue, so you're given images of his dead wife coming to him, and so you're basically filling in the plot with what you see, and so we have no idea what mythology these vampires. I mean, they're all Korean Americans.
Yeah.
Well, actually, the girl he saves, she says that she can be deported back to Pyongyang, so she's not Korean American. She's Korean.
Yep.
But from what we've seen, they're using the European mythology of vampires. I mean, I don't think the Koreans' mythology is that close to European.
No, but it's probably just a plot twist to throw everybody off. But like I said, this
shitty
one here,
plot twist.
It was pretty shitty, and it wasn't quote unquote obvious at first what this whole thing was about.
No, true.
So it was a complete surprise. But unfortunately, when it got to the good part, what happened, Duck?
Oh, you see the dude come up and he opens his bag. You see the wooden stakes, the garlic cloves, and then he closes his bag and it shows a shot of the front of the bag and it says Van Helsing on it.
Dun, dun,
and then
dun.
it starts to fade to black as you hear the screams of the girls in the background. You don't see any of the attack or any of the fight with him and the vampires.
Yeah.
It's like it leaves the best part out.
Which is another point, real quick, I'll hash back on. There was another thing I picked up on after after I had observed closer, was the fact that the bodies that were strewn about, that I had no idea how the hell they got that way, had the wooden stakes in their chest. I had no idea. I completely missed that the first time around.
You're referring to the door lady and the
door
bellboy.
lady and the bellboy and all
Yeah.
that. Yeah, I had no idea. I didn't even pick up on that the first time. I just thought somebody crazy in the building. I had no idea.
Right.
So it is a kind of a pleasant surprise, but it won't beat anybody that listens to this.
No, I mean, I feel like this... No, not at all. I feel like this is like plot-wise, is the weakest of all of the shorts.
Yeah.
But I was telling you, I do enjoy the fact that for the most part, that most of it is, there's no dialogue in it. So, everything is being... portrayed through a person's emotion and facial mannerisms and body language, and that's not easy to do.
No, it's not.
Even
and plus,
in a major motion picture.
Yeah, that's very true. And the fact that it was a major downshift from the colossal monstrosity of the first segment.
Oh, but we still saw our share of stereotyping in this one.
Oh, of course.
When he tracks the car down, he gets there, it's abandoned, and all of a sudden there's these thugs that show up, and they're the typical stereotypical thugs with like the hat turned sideways. One guy had a peg leg though or something. I was like, what the hell? That's
brother with a gun had a steel leg.
Steel leg, yeah. That was. I mean, that's different, but yeah, he was. Yeah. And of course, he did the very typical "What you looking at, man?" Type of thing. It's like, come on, man. We don't all talk like that. So
no, they don't.
Otherwise, so this one, Scary or Die.
For me, this one's a die.
A die.
Yeah, due to the fact that the lack of, it was too much brooding, not enough killing.
Yeah, it was very sad. Neither one of these shorts have been at all scary so far.
No.
And with this one, I think I'm gonna kind of throw a monkey wrench. I'm gonna go with or because it's not scary. It's not as bad as the last one though, so I don't want it to die. But it's an or. Either take it or leave it. You can skip it or not. But it was definitely one. It was not scary at all for sure.
No.
So, all right. So let's go on to the next one.
Third segment is called Remembered. Not quite as god-awful as the other two, really. One of the stories, this is one of the stories in the actual movie, to me, that's actually more believable because of its premise and what the actions are and stuff like this. What you get as a guy, it's one of these flashback scenes. It starts with a scene, then all of a sudden you jump back, to an earlier time. There's no description, but if you're smart enough to figure that out, it's real easy to figure out.
My problem with that is that normally when they do a flashback and then they jump back 12, 24 hours, 3 days. This jumped back to about 2 hours ago.
Yeah.
Why the hell did you need to flash back to 2 hours ago?
Yeah, it wasn't really necessary. Like you said, they could have picked it up, as you said, in the hotel when the guy's already working on it and chopping the dude into shreds.
Yeah.
So basically what this is about, it's mob hitman. He's like either a dirty... the synopsis says he's a dirty cop, but there's no evidence of him being a police officer in this whole thing.
I think that, again, the synopsis is wrong.
It's very wrong. There's a lot of, you'll have to take all that with a grain of salt. But basically what it is, this guy's hired apparently to chop this guy up and get rid of the body or whatever. But apparently, at some point, he has a get out of death free card. Which is symbolized by this green, looks like a demonic symbol or
like a necklace,
satanic symbol necklace card that the guy has on the table. He chops him up, and he's stupid enough to put it in a bag with the guy. So it's like, why would you do that? But then again, if you don't do it, there's no movie, right?
Right.
So I guess it just lends, the story lends a suggestion that if you chop people up and carry them in a duffel bag, you put a lock on it. You just put a lock on it and you keep them locked up. Hey, great, no problem. Dead guy can't get at you, Better yet, like if I was this guy, I would have Breaking Bad that shit and put him in a tub and with some chemicals and melted him, or at least bury the parts hundreds of miles away from each other.
Yeah.
Because it turns out, like I said, at the end, the dude, of course, predictably, goes T-1000 and mysteriously reassembles himself using his get out of death free card. It doesn't show any of this, obviously.
All off screen.
All off screen. Shows up in the car. Guy takes his eye off him. He disappears. And then what happens, Duck?
He has a shitty jump scare where he gets back in the car and it focuses on him, and he very slowly looks over to the passenger seat, and you can see his eyes get all big, and you're like, gee, I wonder what's going to be in the passenger seat. And sure enough, he's in the passenger seat, and he looks at him, and then he gets out of the car, and he looks back in, and then he's gone out of the front seat, and he's just standing there staring at his seat, and all of a sudden it gets real quiet, another precursor to a jump scare. And the guy appears behind him, grabs him, puts his hand over his mouth, and in a series of very shitty close-up scenes, he proceeds to chop his head off, which, again, is done off camera.
With a fine-tooth hacksaw.
Yeah, with a fine-tooth hacksaw.
So it took a while. So the guy just sat there wide-eyed, didn't scream.
Yeah, didn't fight back.
Guess you can't. The windpipes are cut.
I mean,
whatever.
But it didn't take that long, because according to the movie, it took him like maybe 5 or 6 cuts, and then plop, you hear the body fall.
Yeah, and, very predictably, of course, body's in the trunk. You hear knocking and stuff like that on the trunk. So it's like, okay, right. Very, quote unquote, predictable, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and again, it wasn't even scary, and you knew kind of where it was going. I mean, because the whole intro, which was like the flashback to whatever, the whole intro. Like, it started with him hearing thumps coming from the trunk, so you know where it was going to go.
Of course. That's typical. So, Duck, on this one, what do you give it? You scary or die on this one?
Oh, die. Just die, yeah. I mean, the acting was good. The guy who played the hitman, he did a really good job. I mean, he didn't have a lot of dialogue either, but he was a pretty good hitman and believable in what he was doing. The sound design was awful, as we were talking about. The whole sound of him cutting the body up in the tub sounded just like he was doing it underwater. It sounded really muffled. It's real bad. Yep. But otherwise, this is one that I think you can probably skip. What about you?
Yeah, it just seemed more like a crime drama to me than it did a horror movie, so to say.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm going to give that one a die too, because this really wasn't scary. No. It was predictable. No. It was a little cool. It wasn't bad.
Wasn't too
but
bad,
it wasn't like, it wasn't scary as hell kind of thing.
No.
So, yeah.
I'm beginning to think they should have called this movie, instead of Scary or Die, they should have called it All Off Screen. All the good shit takes place off screen.
That's it.
So, alright, so now we are moving on to the next section, the main event for the night. Wow.
Yeah.
That's all I gotta say is wow. So we just watched the 4th segment, the main attraction, the piece de resistance, the piece de shit,
clown.
The
Stop clowning, man.
this movie needs to stop clowning.
Hey, man, dope dealer turned flesh-eating clown. How can you beat that one?
This is the whole reason for this film. This is who you see on the cover, the cover art. It's Fucko the Clown. So,
and that is his name.
That is his name, Fucko. So basically, stars Emmett, who's a drug dealer, who is also a big brother, and he is out with his brother and his girl at the beach. They get home, and his mom is preparing decorations for his brother's birthday party tomorrow. So then the next day, the mother comes up to Emmett saying, look, one of the kids from the party's missing. I need you to go pay the clown so we can go look for him. So he goes into the kitchen to find the clown in his fridge. When he asks him to get out, the clown drops a finger on the floor, which nobody notices.
Nope.
And proceeds to act like a mime more than a clown. And Emmett kicks him out. There's a very terrible struggle that ensues, at which point the clown bites him in the leg.
But you forgot, bro. Go back. He drank from the carton, man. You don't drink from the carton.
Okay, he drank from the carton. That's right. Number one rule: do not drink from a carton.
Just pull it out and smooth drank his milk out the carton right in front of him, man. That was just no.
Yeah. So he drank from the carton, which prompted him to kick him out of the house. A little struggle ensued, and then for whatever reason, he decided to bite Emmett on the leg, and then, as you so eloquently put it, he pirouetted off or
balleted his ass down the street,
and nobody chased after him.
Nobody went after him. Nope,
took
just let
his
him go.
Sweet ass time going down the street. So then Emmett starts displaying symptoms of, I don't know, what is it, clown gonorrhea. His skin starts developing white patches. His eyes develop red patches, and he decides he needs to go find this clown to find a cure. And
I guess.
I
guess that's what his point was.
I don't know what the hell he thought he was going to do when he found the
ass.
clown. I don't know, but one of the weirdest parts is when he gets dressed. He, I guess by just, not by choice, but more of just instinct, he puts on a pair of blue plaid pants, which, what the hell are those doing in his closet anyway?
I don't know.
What sort of respectable drug dealer in LA has a pair of blue plaid pants?
Yeah, I don't know.
So he puts those on, and then he finds that none of his shoes fit. His feet have grown quite large. So he then goes into his mother's room for whatever reason and finds the clowniest shirt he can find to put on, and he looks more like a wannabe drag queen than a clown.
Pretty much, yeah. It's pretty pathetic. But the clothing choice is obvious for what reason.
Right.
It's very obvious
right.
as to why he chose these particular items to give him the look, because you basically knew where this was heading. So.
Right. So then he disappears to go find the clown. There's this long montage with very, very sad violin music of him trying to find the clown, the police talking to the mother and girlfriend, and at some point he, for some reason, decides to cover himself in plastic trash bags. Not sure why.
Yeah, there wasn't no real lead into that. He just decided he was going to just wrap himself in bags and claws and rags and just...
And duct tape bags on his feet in the shape of clown shoes. What the fuck was that?
I have no idea.
So then he just happens to find a burlap sack in the trash, cuts eye holes, puts it over his head, a la Friday the 13th Part 2.
Yep.
And proceeds to continue looking for the clown. He finds the clown eventually, but not until the clown has kidnapped his little brother, take him into the woods to eat him.
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
He finds the intent. There's another very bad fight scene. Let's talk about that reveal of his face. What do you think of that?
The face reveal was ridiculous. I mean, it was comical, has a little bit of scare to it. If you don't like clowns, it might get you a little bit, but for the most part, it was pretty stupid.
Oh, I laughed my ass off.
The lips were enormous.
I mean, just the look of it was meant to be scary.
Yeah,
but that's the most I've ever laughed at a clown, and I don't think that was meant to be intentional.
Well, the funny thing about it is, of all the segments of this movie, this is the one I actually enjoyed the most.
Okay.
It did have some good creep factor in some spots. I especially liked the opening scene with the pier. Like I said, when the ball goes under the pier, and he has to go into this under this dark pier and go in there and find this ball that's missing, and you hear this kid crying that you don't see, and all this, and you see a mom wandering on the beach looking for her kid, holding a Happy Meal, and all this stuff.
I agree. I think that part was actually well done. The tension was done well. The pacing was done well. The keeping the creature, whatever it was, the clown apparently in the shadows and the pier was done very well, and that was actually pretty good. It was effective.
Yep. And then you catch the shadow figure on the back wall and stuff, and it was actually well done.
Right.
It was by far, if you're going to call this movie scary at all, this was by far the quote-unquote scariest segment of the movie.
It's the closest one that got scary.
I guess you could say that.
Yeah, to me, yeah.
If you're easily scared by movies, this would get you. But if you're a horror pro, you'll laugh at it.
Yeah,
it's a laugher. But as far as I was concerned, this was the best segment of the so-called motion picture.
It was definitely the one they put the most money into. And the most backing behind, because it was one of the longer ones, and obviously, like I said, it's the cover of the cover art.
It is the main feature. It's also the longest segment, obviously.
Right. Yeah. And so it's the one that they were banking on the most, and it has the one that has the star, Corbin Bleu from High School Musical fame. So
yep.
But I laughed way too much at this segment. I think I was supposed to.
It's like I said. This is. Yeah, and like, as far as I'm concerned, you're not supposed to laugh at horror movies, but you just can't help it.
No. And there's just so many scenes that just don't make sense. Like the scene when they're talking to the detectives about the missing boy, and the detectives start having an argument about a past crime that involved what may have been a mime or a clown. It's no reason for that.
No, it just got carried away. It's just I guess
it's supposed to make me funny, but
just added stupidity, basically. Yeah.
And then speaking of unnecessary scenes, there's an unnecessary 20-second quote-unquote sex scene that just came out of nowhere and didn't lead to anywhere, so why the hell even put it in?
Well, it actually, I guess you could say you didn't really need it, but it kind of lent premise to the ending of the segment, which is true.
That's a good point.
Because you didn't think about it, because he'd already been bitten before that sex scene. And at the end of this, you see her pushing a baby carriage with this child with rather enormous feet.
Yeah, so, but they could have cut it down to about 5. All it needed to show was her laying on the bed, him getting on top, fade out. You knew what the hell was going to happen. They
didn't watch all the rest of
it. They went just far enough to see them sort of grabbing each other, but then they fade out before anything actually happens. I mean, you could have cut it down like 15 seconds and not wasted our time.
And I'm honestly surprised that they had it in there at all, and they didn't actually show anything, because usually these kind of gratuitous horror movies and these gratuitous scenes actually show a little something, right, to keep the audience from basically leaving or turning it off or whatever, like that, you know.
And so he finds the clown, he whoops his ass, he eats him, he sends his brother back home. Then the next day, he's standing outside of an elementary school, looking at the kids in the playground. Nobody notices this 6-foot-tall, white afro-haired, creepy-looking clown staring at kids. And the cops do show up, and so he decides to end his life by suicide by cop. And then the next scene is of the girlfriend pushing a stroller down the street, and some kids off screen ask if they can see her kid. And as the camera comes around, you see giant feet in the crib, which look ridiculous again. And she turns around, slaps the kid, and that's the end of the short.
Back slaps him, all she wrote.
That's all she wrote. So now there's a Fucko Jr. out there.
There's somewhere. A Fucko Jr. So
and I hope she does not breastfeed him.
Yeah, no kidding.
She will not have nipples left.
Yep. Well, I guess for this particular one of Scary or Die, where do you stand on that one, Doug?
I'm gonna go with Scary. I'm gonna go Scary mostly because of the wharf scene. Okay. It was pretty creepy. It was actually good, but also because I laughed more at this segment than any other, so I actually enjoyed myself. So I'm gonna go with Scary. Yep. What about you?
I'm gonna do the same. I'm going with Scary as well because, like I said, that scene had some good quality to it. Mm-hmm. This one definitely had a better story to it, a little more creep factor, a little more tension, you know. And so I'm definitely going Scary with it, and had that definite It feel.
Yeah, it
a little bit when
it
came exactly with the whole kids and the clown stuff,
This and that scene of the ball going down the sidewalk by itself, very much.
Yep.
Homage to It, but I mean, and again, like we were saying, also his eye makeup, how it was very triangular, very sharp points, very reminiscent of John Wayne Gacy, but. When you do a clown movie, how can you not pay homage to two of the most well-known clowns out there?
Yeah,
killer clowns, I should say, because there were some other well-known clowns that weren't killer clowns. But
that is true.
So, yeah, I'd say I'm sticking with Scary.
I'm going with that as well.
All right, well,
we're 1 for 4.
Well, you're 1 for 4. I am 1.5 for 4 because I gave called an or. I gave Taeshung's or. So
you gave him an or. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm 2 for 1 for 0.5, I guess.
All right.
So now we got one more short. It's actually very short. It's the last one, and let's give that one a go.
Well.
Yep.
That pretty much does it. The fifth and final segment, I guess you could call it a segment, is very brief actually, but pretty effective. It wasn't too bad for what it was. Segment's called Lover Come Back.
Yep.
Very short. Would make any man think twice about putting his hands on his woman. I'm going to tell you that.
At least one from
Louisiana. At least from harm, yeah.
Who has a granddad who did some mojo on her.
Some mojo. Well, basically how it starts out, the woman describes her childhood, how she was protected by her grandfather, was like a voodoo priest or something from Louisiana.
Yep.
Put some special energy on her, and she grew up and fell in love with this man who eventually just started treating her like shit, slapping her around and beating her up. And I guess at one point comes to the boiling point and basically tells him, you're done. No more messing around, no more catting around, doing whatever. Uh-huh. And he basically chokes the shit out of her.
Yep.
Kills her. So, and being a lowlife that he is, puts her in a box and doesn't even bury her. Just puts her in a box in the woods somewhere and just leaves her there.
And this one takes place in Louisiana.
I think it starts in Louisiana. I'm not sure because that's one hell of a walk.
That's what she says. She says she's walked from Louisiana to L.A. She says the walk to L.A. was a long one.
That is true.
So apparently the dude
from one L.A. to the other.
Right. Not only did he murder her and leave her in a trunk in the swamp, but he also up and moved to the other side of the continental United States.
So she decided to walk her ass 2,000 miles with a broken ass heel.
Yep.
Just to get there and choke the shit out of them. Good for her.
Good for her.
Hey.
That's determination right
there.
there.
Then she went back and gets back in the damn box. That part I didn't get, but you know what? It's a fitting end to this whole thing. Just put a lid on it.
Literally and
figuratively,
yeah. So I think what it was that she was saying that her grandfather put a spell on her, and as long as she was in love, she would never die or something. And so when he killed her, I think she still had that bit of love for him, and so she needed to get rid of it. So she had to walk to find him. Once she killed him, then that meant the spell was over. So she walked back to her little trunk home and went back in so she could go back to being dead.
I guess so.
So the thing, I thought it was a pretty good short. I like the imagery, the cinematography, as far as like where like the scene in the trunk in the swamp and the moon and all the like the mist and everything. It's really neat. And so this is the woman that you see throughout the other shorts. The other shorts, if you look at certain different times in the shorts, you will see a woman sort of ambling in the background, or sometimes she's in the foreground. But you see her with she has two shoes, but one heel's broken, but she appears in all the
Yep.
all the shorts. So this is her. So apparently. Which I guess would make sense, because if that one's in Arizona, then
she was in the car. She was alive, and she was in the car there.
Yeah.
And then the second scene, she was seen walking on the street in a tunnel. In a tunnel.
Yep.
And she was seen walking across a bridge. And the third one, I think it was with the dismembered.
Dismembered. Yeah.
And then the
clown. The clown. She's in there somewhere, but we didn't notice where she was at. But when I watched it last night, I saw her. I wish I had made a note of it, but I saw her in clown, but we couldn't find her now.
Because I thought she was the lady who was holding, wandering the beach with the Happy Meal. I thought that was the same lady.
Yeah.
It might be, might not be. It wasn't credited, so we couldn't verify that.
Yeah, I think we established it's the same actress, but just in a different role, because that lady was looking for her kid, which was the kid being eaten under the wharf when Andy went to go look for his ball.
That's right.
That was the baby that he heard crying.
Yep.
Yeah.
So.
But she's in there somewhere. So, but the other... This is where it kind of... It's like, I don't know. It just kind of annoys the shit out of me. So, she's also the person looking on the internet and watching these videos. So, at what point in her Hobbit walking journey did she have time to stop at somebody's house and decide to look at the videos?
I was really just never explained. It just basically happened, which probably explains the fact that she started, her hands started normal and she slowly rotted as the show went on. So I'm guessing it's just metaphorical.
I guess. And I mean, I guess it's a way to connect. Like, it's a mechanism to move between stories, but there's no reason to even use her. You can just use like the idea of just some kids who just wander upon this website and just pick random, kind of like VHS, the first VHS.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of kids that break into this house to look for a particular VHS that they're hired to do that, and in order to find it, they have to watch these unlabeled VHS tapes to find the right one. And so it's a mechanism to get them to watch these different tapes, which are the short stories.
True.
They could have done that with this one, just some kids who were spending the night hanging out, want a good ghost story. They come across the website and they just pick random shorts. It doesn't make any sense to have this woman looking at the internet, because at the end, after that last short, you see her hands leave the computer table, and then it's just a shot of like the doorway entryway looking at the computer table, and then she appears in the shot in the doorway, and then she looks at the camera and you see her face is all messed up, and then she closes the door.
And boom, that's it.
What? Like what? Like why? What? Yeah.
That's like I said, I think she was the element that basically, quote unquote, tied all of the other segments together. She was just like, it's one of those random...
She's the crypt keeper for this one.
I guess so.
The crypt keeper that introduces
each short. Or the creep show guy,
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. This is more like, if you're going to describe it, it's a low budget creep show. It's nowhere near the quality of the first creep show. But it's the same kind of premise, mini stories and all this, and they all kind of semi sort of tie in.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, like with that one, the comic
keeper.
book, the dad throws the comic book out, and
and the creeper goes.
And every time the wind blows, it opens to a separate page to segue to the next story and stuff like that.
Okay, so she's the crypt keeper then.
She's basically the crypt keeper.
It still doesn't make any damn sense. So, okay, so last very short. What do you give it? Scary or die?
I'm going to give that one a scary too, because although short, I thought was very effective, and I liked the zombie effects. I liked it, like I said, the cinematography was great.
Yeah.
The swamp wandering in the fog and all that. It had a good creep factor too.
Okay.
I thought the makeup effects were good, and I thought that and like I said, it was very short, but that was more of a scary factor. Did it scare me personally? No. But it would be scarier to somebody more susceptible to these kinds of movies, I think.
Okay. I'm going to give it an or, because while I enjoyed the cinematography and I enjoyed the shot of the trunk and the swamp and the makeup effects, it didn't make really a lot of sense because I get that she's undead or whatever, but she walked 2,000 miles to kill this dude, and the dude was in the back of a car getting it on with some lady, so he couldn't even afford a hotel room. I guess he was a hooker or something. I don't know. But and then she ends up going back in the trunk. But my biggest like contention with it is that the makeup effect when she appears in front of him and you see a close up of her face. When you see the face, it almost has a very horse or donkey or baboon type of protruded snout look to her face. But then
definitely animalistic.
Yeah, but then at the
nature,
end, when she closes out the internet and she appears in the doorway and you look at her face, it's not the same effect. It just looks like her nose is missing and like
it looks rotted.
Yeah,
it's
it doesn't have that
decay.
protrusion. Yeah,
like she's decaying. But
it's like they can't decide on what makeup effects. So that's why I just gave it an or. So, okay. So overall, the entire movie, we're gonna do our scale system now. So what do you give this movie out of 1 out of 5 shits?
Out of 1 out of 5?
Yeah.
Okay. I personally
1 through 5.
Yeah, 1 being actually not so bad, 5 actually being holy shit.
Yes.
I'm actually going to give Scary or Die 3 turds.
3 turds. Okay.
I'm going to give it 3 turds.
All right. And then your reasoning for giving it 3 turds?
Basically because it was a decent balance of horror, versus stupidity.
Okay.
It was bad, but it wasn't super bad.
Super bad.
Okay. I enjoyed many parts of it.
Okay.
And the more I've seen it, and the more I paid attention to some of the other elements that tied together, it made a little more sense.
Okay.
So it was actually it helped me like the picture better. But yeah, it's still, I put it somewhere in the middle of the suck scale.
Okay. Okay. I also can give it a 3 as well. I don't think it's as bad as some of the movies I've watched. It's not as good as some of the B and C movies I've watched as far as anthologies. There's certainly way better anthologies out there, but it's definitely something I think everybody should see once, if nothing else, for the Fucko the Clown bit.
You gotta see Fucko the Clown.
I mean, they probably could have just taken that part out and made it an hour-long movie, and it would have been just fine.
The clown killing kids, whatever.
Exactly. I mean, they've done it before. They'll do it again, but this is more of a. This is not so much a supernatural entity like it or a man-made monster like John Wayne Gacy. This is some sort of zombie-like bacterial spreading thing that you spread through saliva or whatever.
Yeah, they didn't explain his origin. He was just there.
Yeah.
And they basically, like you said, when we looked at it before, they tie the whole premise of the movie around people trying to get away from this clown, but yet he only was part of that one segment.
Yeah.
So people do need to be aware that the whole movie is not about this killer clown,
right.
Although he's the climactic chapter of the show, basically, not. He's definitely. He's just part of it.
He's not the main focus of it. Yeah,
he's not the main focus of the whole thing, but they use him for the draw factor.
Right,
I think is what it is, for the draw.
So you definitely recommend it for people to see it once.
Absolutely,
at least.
Sure,
it's a good movie to see with a group of people, and just make fun of, because it's
absolutely, and that's what we're basically going to aim for here. And pretty much every movie that we will probably be reviewing together from here on will be the same thing. We are trying to encourage people to go see these colossal pieces of shit, because even crappy movies need lows too.
That's right. That's right.
So what are you going to do?
All right. Well, I think that was a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to our next colossal piece of shit.
Absolutely.
And once again, I'm Chris.
And I'm James.
And we will see you guys at the theater.
Yep.